And good evening to you here at WMRS, Sunny 107.7. This is our last day for candidate interviews. In the studio with me, I have Tony Lantz. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Brandi.
You are very last day for me. That's
All right.
kind of exciting. So let's kick this off and tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm a 1984 graduate of Tri-County High School. In my senior year in high school, I enlisted in the United States Air Force in the delayed entry program. I'd kind of always known I wanted to go into the military. That was something I had always wanted to do. So in the summer of '84, I went off to basic training and began my enlistment in the Air Force, where I eventually became a crew chief on RF-4Cs, and I was stationed overseas in England. Got to see a lot of neat things and learn a lot of important life lessons while in the military. While in the military, I transferred over to the Judge Advocate General's office, where I was exposed a little bit to the military criminal justice system, and kind of piqued my interest in that world. So I came home, went back to Wolcott, and in 1988 I became a police officer for the town of Wolcott and the town of Brookston. And that was a part-time basis, but it got me to the full-time police, or the full academy, the 12-week academy, which I knew would make me more marketable to get hired on the sheriff's department, which was what I ultimately wanted to do. And so in 1990, Jerry Johns hired me as a part-time officer. I worked part-time in the jail and part-time on the road. So I got some jail experience, corrections officer experience, and patrol experience. And then in 1992, Reggie Shireman was the sheriff at the time, and he wanted to start a drug task force in White County. And so I was selected to be the White County member of the drug task force. And that task force was funded through federal grants, and I was responsible for writing that grant and administering that budget and maintaining the paperwork and everyday operations of the drug task force. And I did that from 1992, and in 2007 the federal money started winding down for that grant. And Bob Guy was the prosecutor, still is the prosecutor. He and the sheriff at the time had gone to the county council about picking up the funding for my position. And the council agreed to do that. So in 2008, I became a full-time investigator at the prosecutor's office. While there, my focus was still drug investigations, but I was also tasked with responding to major crime scenes, murders, bank robberies, doing other types of investigations, from crime scene to prosecution. So I'm still doing that at the prosecutor's office, and that's kind of where we're at with that.
Well, tell me a little bit about your family, too, because you left that part out.
I did.
And she's in here, so she'd be like, you forgot.
Yeah, Paula Lantz is my wife, and we have 3 children altogether, Tyler and Ryan and Kaylee, and they're all adults. They're all doing well. And we have Gunner, Chocolate Lab, and Lily, a little dog.
And you touched on some of this, but tell us what your qualifications are in law enforcement and your managerial experience that would be good to be the next sheriff.
Okay, well, first of all, I have 29 years of, little over 29 years of local law enforcement experience. During that time, I've had experience as a corrections officer, as a patrol officer, as a narcotics investigator. I'm familiar with case management. Budgeting through the drug task force. I wrote the budget, as I said, administered that budget. I have leadership experience in leading major crime scenes, and from crime scene to prosecution and sentencing. I feel I have those the qualities, the leadership qualities, and the managerial qualities to continue leading the sheriff's department.
What do you think is the most significant law enforcement issue facing White County over the next term?
Well, I think it's the drug issue will probably always be at the forefront of the major issue. The opioid crisis is that's at the forefront right now, but we still have other drug issues that we still have to consider. The synthetic drugs, the methamphetamine, more imported meth these days than meth labs, but meth labs are still an issue. And almost all crime has a drug nexus. It all comes back, almost all of it comes back to a substance abuse issue. So I think substance abuse, drug investigations, and drug crime is the major thing for probably every law enforcement agency right now.
Well, since we're touching on that, one of my other questions was with the drugs, the opioids, and the meth being a nationwide issue, how do you think the Sheriff's Department can address that?
Well, we need to continue to work with Bob Guy at the prosecutor's office, Randy Soliday and the police department. Indiana State Police has a drug enforcement section that is great, helping local communities. We've continued to work with the drug enforcement section and other agencies. Roger Young up in Monon is a great asset. The town marshals in general, they're all good law enforcement contacts for us to continue to work with. So I think we need to maintain those relationships and continue to share intelligence as far as drugs and crime in general go. And I'd like to be able to expand the investigations division a little bit and continue to do covert and overt drug investigations.
Okay, where do you think the funds of the Sheriff's Department would be best spent?
As I'm sure you know, the budget for the Sheriff's Department, for all county agencies, but for the Sheriff's Department, the sheriff submits a budget to the council, and the council has to approve that budget. And working with the council, that always works out. But the budget at the Sheriff's Department, the deputies are the face of the Sheriff's Department. But what we don't have to think about on a daily basis, but the sheriff does, is the jail. The jail is a huge part of what the sheriff's responsibilities are. And as I said, the deputies are a great asset, but so are the jail staff, from the people in the kitchen to the cleaning staff, the corrections officers. We have great corrections officers. So most of the budget's actually in operating expenses and salaries. Within that budget, you have to maintain equipment and training, and we need to look at new technologies and new equipment and training to just keep moving forward. But most of the budget is operating expenses and salaries.
What do you think would be the method of communication you'll use to communicate with the general public about things that are happening in the county and with the Sheriff's Department? Like our current sheriff, he calls me, texts me, we have a road closing or an accident, and then he's out right away. What would you do?
That's great, and I would continue that. We need to maintain that great relationship with you and the other media outlets, the newspapers and other media outlets in the county. That's the main thing. Social media is okay for getting information out, and there are apps. There are new technologies and apps emerging all the time. Nextdoor is an app that, and that's just the one I can think of off the top of my head, where it's more of a neighborhood watch kind of app that we can take a look at. But I think for the most part, having a good relationship and using local media is the best way. Okay.
This is one that I've asked everybody. In what ways, outside of running for office and in law enforcement, have you contributed to the community?
Well, as you know, I'm a member of the United Way board.
Yes.
In my second term, I guess, if you will, you're on the board as well. So, I enjoy doing that. Community service, actually law enforcement, I consider that a community service position. I get paid to do that, but I still like to give back. The United Way is a great organization. It helps a lot of agencies who help a lot of people. So I'm honored to be part of that and active in the United Way. There's also a mentoring program that is in place that I'm part of, where I go to Wolcott Intermediate School and mentor a third grader over there. And he's the second student I've had through the program, but we have a great relationship, and helps him have a mentor, and that is a neat program. The youth are important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I help at North White. I open the weight room in the morning for some of the student athletes up there, and I've been able to mentor and guide a lot of those young athletes, and that's been very rewarding to me as well. So, again, community service is important to me, and I'll continue to find ways to do that.
All right, here's my last question. Why do you want to be the next White County Sheriff?
When I started my law enforcement career in 1988, I didn't think that it wasn't my goal at the time to be the White County Sheriff at some point in time, but it is my goal. Now it's my goal. My experiences have led me here. My military experiences, the things I learned in the military, like commitment and loyalty and dedication, but more importantly, serving others and giving back. That's why I want to be sheriff. And I think my qualifications and experiences make me the best person to do that.
Is there anything else you want to add before we're done today?
My 3 beautiful grandchildren that I forgot to mention a little bit ago.
Oh, see, you thought of it.
Elena, Olivia, and Austin. I appreciate the opportunity to come in, and I appreciate the listeners taking time to pay attention to all the candidates. And I'm very grateful for all the support that I've had up to this point, and I would appreciate everybody's vote on May 8th.
Okay, remember, voting is May the 8th. Get out and let your voice be heard. Thank you, Tony Lantz, running for White County Sheriff, coming in and talking to us today. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Brandi.